Hey, it's William Christopher Ford for this episode of Kaizen Dojo Presents. I got my old buddy from Karate Kid 3, among other things, Mr. Sean Kanan.
Hey, Chris. Good to see you.
Hey, man. Thanks so much for spending time with me. This was just kind of a good opportunity. We did an earlier interview, and we got a chance to talk about Sean's new book. And for this interview, I wanted to kind of talk about, how he got started in acting and all that. So that being said, how did you get started in acting?
Well, when I was about 15 years old, I went to an open call for models, and it was for a friend of mine. I had no intention of doing it. It was for my friend, and I accompanied him, and they wound up asking me if I wanted to sign with this modeling agency. And I wound up doing a commercial, which got me my SAG card. I was 15 years old. I did a commercial in Pittsburgh. Got my SAG card. I knew I wanted to act. I went to school in Boston and was studying political science, but I started taking some acting classes and decided if I wanted to really pursue acting, I'd have to either go to Los Angeles or New York. And so I wound up transferring to UCLA and finished my degree in political science, but I was already actively auditioning. I had done a couple little things, and while I was at UCLA, I booked Karate Kid 3.
Yeah.
And it kind of changed a lot of stuff for me. So.
Well, that was, how we met. I had heard about an open call, and there was some, 500 or more kids or, guys in line who wanted to possibly play the next villain in the Karate Kid movie. And I didn't know that you were in that line, and it was kind of good. John Alverson came up to me, and he had his cameraman, I think it was first AD Cliff Coleman,
Yep.
And, they went down the line, and he actually stopped at me. I was able to give him a headshot, and he said, you look a little old to be playing somebody who's still in high school.
Right.
And I said, okay, no problem. I was a little bummed. And then a couple weeks later, I got a call from Carol Jones, the casting director, and I got a chance to read for the part of Mike Barnes.
That's fantastic.
And then more time went by, and I was just like, oh, I guess, I didn't get anything.
Right.
And then, the day before it was supposed to start production, Carol says, we kind of need somebody to play one of the henchmen,
Right.
And I'm like, yes, I'll do it.
I hench very well.
And interestingly enough, you weren't the first choice for Mike Barnes. It was
that's been the story of my career many times.
Yeah, they had a kid named Darryl who I met, and he kind of looked like he was a really good-looking surfer kid. And then a few days later, he was gone, and it just, I think John Avildsen saw something in him initially, and then I just think maybe it just some things are just not meant to be.
Right.
And then, as fate would have it, you were ultimately cast.
It was very surreal for me. I had watched the first two films in the theater as a fan, and then there I am suddenly, doing a screen test with Ralph Macchio, and like you said, they hired somebody else, and then a couple days later they brought me back, and it was as quick as I was in the office with Shel Schrager, the producer, and Robert Mark Kamen was there, who of course wrote all the first three Karate Kids. I don't know, did you write the fourth one or not?
I'm not sure.
He wrote Taken. Brilliant writer.
He's an actual karate
guy
too.
And he was putting me through. He was putting me through. He wanted to watch some, some basic blocks, and and he said, "I buy it." And the next thing I knew, I was like out the door to wardrobe. It was super fast from the time that I didn't have the job to the time that I was on the set.
Right.
It just like whipsaw,
Well, interestingly enough, you took karate back in Pennsylvania with Sensei William Stoner, who is a student of Sensei Fumio Demura, who was the stunt double for Pat Morita, Mr. Miyagi. Yes. So it was interesting how that kind of came full circle.
Yeah, Sensei Demura knew that I wanted to be an actor, and he said, "Sean, I think actually that's not how he said it. He said, Sean, I think he said they're gonna hire this new heavy, the new villain, and he said, I think you ought to try and get the part." I showed up like you did at the open call.
Yeah, it was just and then I'm working on the set, and I see Ralph Macchio there, and then Sensei Demura was like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And he actually vouched for me.
As did he for me too.
When Pat Johnson came on the set, and John came back, and previously he had said I look too old, and he says, "Yeah, it looks fine." And Sensei says, "John, this kid okay," and so good enough for Sensei, good enough for me, and then that's how I got my SAG card, and. I followed you since then. You went on to do the General Hospital and the Bold and the Beautiful, right? And you did another one too, right?
A lot of soap work, Young and the Restless. I actually did another one called Sunset Beach.
Which is right. I remember that. I had asked you this before. How do you memorize that much dialogue? I mean, soap operas are daily, right? And it's like you shoot the same day. The same day it goes, right? So
Yeah, we do sometimes, at least on Bold and the Beautiful, sometimes we would have 80 pages that we would shoot. I mean, you're not in every one of those pages, obviously, but I mean, without fail, I mean, I had 25 a day.
yeah, yeah.
And I just think it's kind of like, it's kind of like practicing martial arts. It's like going to the gym. The more you train, the better you become at it, the quicker you pick things up. And it's a little bit like a muscle. In the beginning, it was hard for me to learn a lot of dialogue, and it got easier. And now I mean, learning the dialogue is never the most challenging part of an audition or performing in a role.
Sure.
I mean, it's bringing the reality to it. And,
Right.
doing the backstory and
Sure.
the preparation.
The subtext.
Sure, yeah.
That's interesting because I guess like fight choreography, right? But I as a trained martial artist, it's like I can pick it up pretty quick,
Sure.
and then it's like 50 moves. It's like yeah, I got this. It's like learning a kata, right?
Right.
It's the same with dialogue, I guess. After a while, you just go, oh, okay,
Right.
you memorize the intention behind it, and it's like,
Yes.
okay, this is.
That's
what's
actually
happening.
that's very astute. It's learning the intention behind the words, and then the words will come to you.
Right.
If you're trying to just learn the words for the sake of words and sounds, that's when it gets difficult. But
Because what if somebody changes the dialogue, or somebody
Right.
doesn't
Right.
remember it correctly, and then you're like, that's not what it's written in the script, right?
and that happens.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I want to go back to martial arts for a second. How'd you get started in karate?
Well, I came from a small city actually in western Pennsylvania, about 30,000 people, and I started boxing in Youngstown, Ohio, on the south side of Youngstown, Ohio, and it was a pretty rough place. And very quickly, my parents wisely ascertained that the people that were there boxing were doing it to get out of a negative economic reality. I was doing it because I thought it'd be cool to learn how to box, So they decided to stick me in karate.
Okay.
And I was not for it. I really liked boxing, and I kind of was. I was like, I don't know about this karate thing. And very quickly, it really resonated with me. I was about 13, 14 years old maybe, and I really needed some discipline. I needed some direction. And martial arts really offered that to me in a way that nothing else was at the time. It gave me a sense of esprit de corps, being with the other guys in the dojo. It taught me humility in the best possible sense.
Okay.
It gave me an opportunity as I rose in belts to teach a little bit, and I think that's something that's important as you study martial arts.
Yeah.
I think it's important that the lower belts learn to teach and relate to a class, and it fulfilled a lot of stuff in me. And so throughout my life, I've always come back to one type of martial art or another. I've studied a lot of different ones, and it just seems to be a bit of a magnetic north for me.
Interesting. I bet it really. You were probably very happy that you knew some karate on the set of Karate
Absolutely.
Kid.
Well, that made all the difference.
Yeah.
I mean, had I not known any, I am very doubtful I would have gotten the part. But I had been studying for more than several years, so I was able to do what was needed to be done, and then just concentrate on the acting part.
I know you got really busy after Karate Kid. Were you able to pursue some sort of martial arts after that?
Let's see. I'm trying to think of what I did afterwards. Well, I had a storyline in General Hospital where I was boxing.
Okay.
And so I trained at a kickboxing gym with a guy named Chris Steele, and I really, really liked it. So it was like American kickboxing. So I stayed with that for a good while, studying privately with Chris Steele. Over the years, I've studied Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Nice.
I'm dabbling in Krav Maga right now.
Okay.
I like learning a little bit of everything.
Yeah, yeah.
For me, it's just something that it gets a little harder as you get older. I don't have to tell you,
Well, sure.
the stretching and everything like that. But
Sure.
I really enjoy the philosophy and the discipline and all that comes with it. And so much of what I love about the martial arts is encapsulated in the advice that Mr. Miyagi gives to Daniel. You know, about finding balance, and that, you train not to fight.
Sure.
You know, and I think that it was interesting. I'm very involved with anti-bullying. I am the young man's youth ambassador for a group called Buddha Bullying. And so I go into high schools and I talk to kids about bullying, and what we do is we facilitate a dialogue. We get them up on the stage, and it's amazing because you have kids who obviously are being bullied.
Yeah.
You have kids that are witnesses to bullying, which is very traumatic, and you got kids that are the bullies. Yeah. And going in as a guy that played this iconic bully in Karate Kid 3, it kind of gives me some street cred with them.
Yeah.
And then when I say, hey guys, would you ever believe that guy was actually bullied? Because I was when I was a kid. I was pretty severe bullying issue when I was a young kid before I started taking karate. And it's at the time when I did Karate Kid 3, I never imagined that this would be such an incredible entree into reaching young kids and trying to make a difference about bullying. And so aside for all the wonderful things that the role in Karate Kid has done for me in my life, that's something that has really been an exceptional benefit for me.
Is that program still going on?
Yeah, I'm very involved in it. We go out to different high schools. We talk to kids. A lot of different programs. So you can, if you want to find out more about it, you just go online. It's bullying.com, or you know what? I'm on Instagram and Twitter, and I respond when people get a hold of me on Twitter. I'll be glad to answer how else you can find out about it.
Well, that's great, because I think that can be very powerful.
Yeah.
Like you said, especially coming from somebody like you, who they don't know maybe what a real nice guy you are. I get asked that a lot. Because I was one of your crew in that movie.
Right. We weren't so nice in that.
And back then I actually had shorter hair, and some of my karate students, their parents, they'd say, "Did you know Sensei was in the Karate Kid 3?" And then they go back and they're like trying to figure out which one I was, but then they're like, "You were so bad," and then they asked me about you, and I said, Sean is actually become nicer and nicer as the years gone by. You're one of the nicest guys, and you're also very sincere, because, you told me once, I used to run into you I think I was auditing Roy London's class once or something like that, and I ran into you, and I'm like, oh my God, and he goes, oh yeah, this is my teacher and all that, and so I just kind of sat and watched it, and then you said, yeah, make sure you stay in touch with me. I'm really good at keeping in touch.
We have stayed in touch more and more as the years have gone by.
And I've heard that from really so many people, but you're the only one who was actually like, when I get in touch with you, man, I'll text you. And sure enough, there's Sean's.
At the risk of, I think there's something about coming from the East Coast that when you say you're going to do something, I try my best to do it. I really do. And when I say no, it means no. But when I say yes, I try and make yes mean yes. So.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
It speaks a lot of your integrity. But people who they become famous, and then they become worse as they go along. But maybe it just is the nature of the business. It sort of amplifies what is already there.
I completely agree with that.
What I mean?
I was doing an interview the other day for my book, and somebody asked me something along those lines, and I said, I have a theory about that, and I hope I can say this, but I think if you're an asshole and then you become famous, you become a bigger asshole.
Yeah, right.
You got a bigger sandbox to play in to be a jerk.
Yeah.
And I think if you're a decent person, God willing, with good friends and good people around you, you stay humble, you stay focused, and you become a better person with a bigger sandbox with which to hopefully positively affect people. That's what I try and do.
Yeah.
Not always successful, but I try.
You do. You know what? Thank you so much.
Chris, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Dude, you're one of the greats, and I really appreciate your friendship. Thank you for taking time with us.
I appreciate it too. Thank you.
And if you want to get in touch with Sean Kanan, follow him on Instagram and Twitter, and he'll probably get back to you. Maybe not, but
maybe not right away, but I'll get back to you.
Yeah, but thanks so much again.
Thanks, brother.
Always a pleasure.
Appreciate it.
All right, and we'll see you next time.